Hello everyone and welcome into the channel. My name is Brent. World of Warcraft will never be the same again. Project Epoch is here and it's flipping the script on how we explore Azeroth. New zones, reworked factions, rare world bosses, profession changes, and even accelerated day and night cycles. So if you thought you knew classic World of Warcraft, think again. Now most of you guys out there are looking at the same screen that I am today. As we're trying to log on, we cannot get onto the server. So instead, we're going to go ahead and talk about, as we said, a few new things that'll be introduced into Project Epoch that we have not seen on classic World of Warcraft. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, for those of you that haven't joined and started on the server right away, let's go ahead and cover some of the new changes being introduced in the Project Epoch. Starting off with locations. If you guys are playing Alliance over in the Eastern Kingdom, you'll already start off in Goldshire seeing many of the changes being added in, such as the shadowy figure seeking an ancient and powerful artifact. As we scroll on through, over to the Ironforge airfield, we've seen this in other private servers being introduced, so I'm hoping it's more of a quest hub versus just being used to jump into the wetlands. Here we have the Manor Mist Mantle being added into Duskwood. This is going to be a new fresh kind of addition to the Night Watch hiding spot. As we scroll on down, the Upper Marshes, this had something very similar in some of the other servers that I've seen in the southern center portion of the wetlands. Looks like they've made their own little upper marshes as well, introduced here into the wetlands, which I'm looking forward to seeing. Durnhold Keep, this is one that's been in Hillsbrad Foothills in the past. I'm looking to see what kind of changes they've made with the Syndicate faction. I think a lot of this is really cool to kind of see how they've expanded upon what's already been in Classic in the past. Blazing Hills over in Irathi Highlands. This just looks like there's more elementals of fire elementals, water elementals, and such that are just kind of, randomly spawning throughout the zone. They have added new Ring of Strength within Stranglethorn. It's a little kind of like a gladiator style ring where you're able to match against other champions. Test of Strength, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. But if you're rolling through here at say 50, 60, would you be able to just kind of face roll this thing and still able to get some of the rewards? Spring Socket, this is something over in the Badlands. There's a lot of room in the Badlands for stuff such as this to be added. So I'm really interested to kind of see where this is being added. It looks like it's kind of in the southern portion of the map, or it could be up in the northern center portion of the map. I know there's a lot of empty spots within the Badlands, so I'm looking forward to see where this is being introduced. The Harborage, this is one that was already in Swamp of Sorrows from what I remember, but it may have some additional little areas to explore. It's a full-fledged Alliance friendly town with new quests. So having played mostly Alliance, I do remember this being there, but it does look like it could potentially be only allegiance to the Alliance now instead of both Horde and Alliance, which I believe Horde had some sort of quest there in the past. So we also have over in the Blasted Land, we have the Fellstone Fortress. It appears to be hostile to both Horde and Alliance, so I was hoping that there should be some sort of a flight path within the Blasted Lands for the Horde, but doesn't seem to be that. It's just going to be some new area to explore. Here we have the Ashfall Post. This thing appears to be neutral, meaning that it will not attack both Horde and Alliance, but it looks like it's an opportunity for both Horde and Alliance adventurers to expand reputation within them and get some new rewards. We have Anderhall. This is something within the Western Plaguelands. I think we're all very familiar with this place. It is going to be a hostile area. Looks like there's going to be some sort of an event that could take place and create a challenge there. Tolbarad Island. This is pretty interesting. Located in Barrowden Bay. Now, Tolbarad, I'm not exactly sure will this will be added in to the Azeroth project, but as we expand into the world map, we'll definitely have to be checking these out. Now, let's jump over into world bosses. Now, a lot of these bosses I noticed when kind of going through the website have already been added into World of Warcraft at some point or another, or they're presently, but they've been upgraded. Here, we have the Corrupted Ancient. This is that ancient wanderer that wanders through Ashenvale. It's an 18 to 30 level bracket, but this guy has been, we've all kind of seen him wandering in the woods or something very similar. Seems like they just kind of upped him and added him in as some sort of a world boss there. Here we have Gonzor located over in Hillsbrad Foothills. I'm assuming that he's going to be inside of the Yeti Cave or in some area where there be Yetis. King Nock, located in Stranglethorn Vale. He was kicked off the island by the other King Mukla, which we find on the island on the east side of Stranglethorn Vale. So this would be an interesting character to go after within the game. We have the Silithid Circer located down in Tanaris. So I'm sure this is probably down in those southern caves. I think a lot of us adventurers who have played hardcore have usually tried to skip a lot of these southern tunnels within Tenaris, which can lead to some untimed events. We have Vulcan. Vulcan's been around. This guy's been located in Burning Seas for a while, but it seems like he was turned into a world boss to create some additional challenges in the game. Jumping over into factions. Now, there have actually been quite a few changes in the factions. We have some major changes. So a lot of the reputation for the factions in the server have been updated. Timber Mahal has now have some new additions located to them. One of them here that I noticed is that you'll be able to summon a little companion, a little firefly, once you've reached Exalted. Here you can pick up additional things for, this is really great for druids, right? 11 stamina, increased attack power by 54, 2-set bonus of 22 agility. It uses some of that Warbearer leather, which we haven't seen a whole lot of use in the past. So nice little introduction there. They've increased friendly rewards, revered rewards, honor rewards, and exalted rewards across the board. So you're going to see that a lot here as we move through here. The Valor Expedition located in Silithus. We have the Ravasaur's Trainer located here in Ungoro Crater. Oh, it's going to be only for a horde. That is unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen some sort of a trainer that you could, go and just take out some dinosaurs for both sides. Like if it was a neutral reputation where both sides could be talking to, like, say, a goblin vendor, and by slaying any number of devilsaurs or raptors, they could gain reputation and get their very own, Ravasaur. So we have some new changes there. Over in the northern area of Winterfell, we have the Winter Saber. We've seen this in some other areas as well. Smoky Wood Pastures, Thorium Brotherhood, Argent Dawn. One thing here I noticed about Argent Dawn in the past, you had that little sun fruit which would increase your spirit. Instead, this increases your attack power against the undead for 15 minutes. It also has a really cool trinket for leather workers. This thing I can see here being very special. This is a binds when picked up saddle. So this will be very unique to only leather workers. They'll be able to craft only one of these. As we can see, it's a unique equipped. So you'll only be able to equip one of these, boosting your mount speed by 5%. You get also the other trinket from ZF for another 3%. That's going to be 8% there. Stacking it with some mithril spurs or thorium spurs, right? So you're going to get that extra boost right there on top. So that is some interesting faction changes with the reputation. If we're taking a look at some of the smaller minor ones, as you're leveling, you're going to have the Soul Puncher located over in Silverpine Forest, Aberdeen located over in Darkshore, Airy Peak within the Hinterlands. So this is a really cool one, the little Griffin Hatchling, and some other little tiny items, kind of miscellaneous stuff. I'm not sure if anybody is really going to focus on these little minor ones when they're leveling, unless it's really easy to kind of get some honored reputation just by default while you're leveling, in order to kind of get some extra pieces while you're leveling. But usually when it comes to minor reputations, a lot of people do not usually aim for them, right? Because how good is this? How easy is it going to get exalted, with the Soul Puncher by level 20 in order to use this ring? So I think a lot of the minor ones are not going to be as sought after. Now, jumping over into quests have been expanded. Now, by expanded, I mean Project Epoch has added over 1,500 new quests. This rivals the number introduced in the Burning Crusades and many other servers that I've seen out there. There's no longer any of that empty space where you're really kind of wondering what to do in your lower levels, mid levels, and high levels, where you're just kind of sitting at level 55, having completed all of the quests. This is not going to be an issue any longer, as there's a dozen of new quests introduced for dungeons, world, PvP, and many other objectives out there in the world, along with the Lore Master Reimagined. This is something I was really looking forward to, the achievement point system. It's just really nice to have a clear-cut kind of goal to focus on and unlocking specific achievements. Jumping over into rares. Now, every zone is expected to have some sort of rewarding challenge, unique encounter, a hidden treasure. So this kind of introduced just a few areas, a few little screenshots of some new introductions here. So this looks like it's in Terran Mill. Looks like something in Altrak Mountains. This is Silithid, the Burning Steeps. This looks like potentially Western Plaguelands, Eastern Plaguelands. Duskwood potentially, right? There's a whole lot of stuff here, but we can see here there's no zone that has been untouched. So you're going to see rare encounters everywhere. So if you are deciding to play hardcore on the server, you might want to be very, very cautious. Jumping over into some racial knowledge. Now this expands into tons and tons of new changes. One thing that I noticed when it comes to racial changes with the weapons, that instead of increasing a weapon skill by say 5 for maces and swords, it now instead reduces your chance to be dodged or parried by that weapon. So that was something that I saw specifically off the bat when it came with humans, that both swords and maces, right? A lot of paladins, rogues, warriors would generally use humans as that main character because that 5 extra weapon skill would be an extra 3% hit chance. Well, that's not the case here, as it's just a straight 1% increase not to be dodged or parried, making humans and orcs less favorable on both sides for that specific reason. Dwarfs, I didn't see a whole lot of changes here. Again, your axe specialization, mace specializations are going to be just mostly for dodging and parrying. Night Elf, one thing here that I noticed was that they got a little polearm and staff. They got the Touch of a Loon, increasing their attack speed and casting speed by 2% during the night. It increases your critical strike chance by 1% during the day. I thought that was really interesting change right there as well. I didn't see a whole lot of changes within the gnome area here. You know, you have your weapon skill there with the dodge and parry. Orc command, this is already introduced in the past. It just seems like every class, you know, orcs already had axe specialization, but we have fist and polearm being added in here. They have their other baseline racials. Hardiness was nerfed from 25% down to 15%. Undead here, we have pretty cool, regenerate 7% of your total health every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, right? So every 2 seconds you regenerate 7%. So what's that? If I can't do the math there, it's going to be 5 times 7 is 35% of your health regenerated really quickly when eating on a mob. And besides that, not a whole lot of things have changed. They have dagger and sword specializations. So undead, we're gonna talk about different classes that can play with the undead and how sword specialization will help and be interesting. Will of the Forsaken provides immunity to charm, fear, and sleep while active, but may also be used while already affected. So there's some classes that this was going to be super helpful for, or that were always a pain in the past. Torn, not a whole lot of changes, right? But we did see mace specialization, gun specialization. So if you're like a hunter, right, you might use a gun specialization there to be increasing your critical hit chance by 1%. And taking a quick look down through here, we have the troll with the thrown weapon and bows and axes. So trolls have always had that bow specialization, but also now have axes included in there. Yeah, interesting racial knowledge. Every race has some sort of racial bonus that increases the weapon skill. So you're going to have some percent chance to have that reduced dodge and parried with a specific weapon, which I think is a really cool addition. So there's not any specific class that's better for, you know, one class or another class. And then at the level 60, you'll be able to unlock and embark on a distinct storyline quest, and you will actually be able to swap your racials between other races. So this will be an interesting change, which we'll have to, you know, uncover ourselves as we continue and play through Project Epoch. Professions have been expanded upon, so all of the vanilla things are there, but they have been expanded upon and new things being added in. Now, I have not started playing yet. Looking into the server, I'm really looking forward to checking out some of the new professions. Now, jumping over into the more anticipated area and changes, which has brought a lot of new players into the server. Project Epoch has introduced 8 new class combinations, 2 of which I think are driving a lot of new players to check out the server. One, the Dwarf Shaman and the Undead Paladin, which we'll cover. So no longer are Shaman and Paladins locked behind factions. The Alliance now have access to Shamans, and the Horde now have access to Paladins. So let's go ahead and quickly take a look through here. We have the Dwarf Shaman, the Gnome Priest, the Human Hunter, the Dwarf Mage, the Undead Paladin, the Troll Warlock, the Tauren Priest, oh boy, and the Undead Hunter. So they have quite a few of new additions here, one of which being, say, a Tauren Priest with Shadow form will be really interesting to see. Undead Hunters, We've seen that on some other servers as well, but one that I have never seen before is the Undead Paladin and the Dwarf Shaman. So these will be really, really interesting to see these two clash against each other on a PvP server. Jumping over into some challenges here. At level 8, you will be able to begin setting up some new challenges. A lot of the challenges will be kind of showcased here. Soul of Iron, if you guys are looking for something inspired by hardcore, then you guys will want to be diving into the Soul of the Iron. A lighter take on hardcore inspired by Season of Mastery. The rule is simple, don't die, but as long as you remain alive, you'll have access to a custom flex emote and display your status. However, if you do fall and face, you have a choice to face. You can delete your character and start fresh on the Soul of Iron, or you can undertake a Trail of Patience, return to your nearest faction capital at walking speed with severely reduced stats with no access to flight paths or teleports. Upon arrival, you can speak with the Chronicler to remove the challenge and continue your journey without a Soul of Iron. So essentially, you can play kind of hardcore, right? It's kind of like Path of Exile, where you play as hardcore, and then as you die, you have the choice to delete, or you can just go to your main city and talk to somebody to return to the normal, normal side, right? And Explorer's Contract. So this is just additional challenges here, as well as you want to explore your achievements, right? You have additional exploration things there. So it's just really nice to kind of see some new challenges being introduced and a new take on hardcore being introduced. Now, difficulty across the board has been increased, so there is a bit of a power creep, not only in the world, but in dungeons. Things that are in the world that you'll see right off the bat will be creature upgrades. So there'll be some changes within creatures. Wolves, boars will be able to wind up at a long casting brutal charge. Wolves will be able to jump and leap at you from far away. So it'll be a really interesting mixture. Elite difficulty. Elites and rare elites are no longer feel like mild speed bumps. So generally in the world, when you came across a rare or a rare elite, they would just be like a similar mob, similar life, higher life than a regular mob within the area, but the damage would be very similar. So they would be just kind of walk in the park. That is no longer the case. If you see an elite or rare elite in the world, you will want to be very cautious, as these can quickly take your party apart, or yourself apart. And bosses have been reinvented, so new weapons, or not new weapons, new bosses have been introduced across the board in many of the dungeons. So I'm really looking forward to the difficulty creep. Now, this is one that I thought was really cool. There's epoch time, so no matter what time you're logging in to World of Warcraft here, within the night and day cycle, it's going to be about a 3 to 4 hour loop. So depending on whenever you're logging on, whether here you are in the United States, if you're over in Europe, if you're over in the Asian area, right, then you'll be able to experience in that 3 to 4 hour window a full day and night cycle. There'll also be some changes as well that take place between day and night. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing a lot of what's going to be taking place there. Instances in Project Epoch have all completely been expanded upon, so you can see some of the changes within dungeons. Starting with Dead Mines, they're going to be adding a brand new boss within there, new areas to explore. I've seen Wailing Caverns. I've kind of seen this in the past being expanded upon over on some other, private servers as well. Glittermuck Mines looks like a nice introduction. Barren Hole, this is over in Tolbrod. This whole new zone here would be really cool to see and explored upon. Stone Talon Cavern located in Stone Talon Mountain. So we got to be careful here. This one's going to be coming soon, but this is a level 57 to 60, and it's a dungeon. So there might be some mobs outside of the dungeon that as you walk towards, you might bust out. If it's located in Stone Talon Mountains, a lot of times players between 15 to 25 will generally be there. Now, over in the raids, this thing is what kind of caught my eye here. Now, they've scaled raids down to be more focused on 25-man and 10-man. So, if you go into Zul'Gurub, eventually it'll be a 10-man. If you go into Molten Core, it is now a 25-man. No longer would you need 40 people to stream through a raid. Also, Onyxia's Lair has been bumped up from the single, face roll kind of event. You now have 3 encounters, so there's not a lot of information out there regarding the 2 new bosses that have been added in there. You can see that Onyxia is going to have a whole new change here. As you can see, some whelps flying around Onyxia, so you might have to engage in the boss, have a secondary tank, pull these down one at a time, tank them in some location, and either fight them off and take them down before Onyxia could be brought, down to her knees, or they might say revive her or something, right? There's a lot of new changes that are going to be introduced, and I'm really looking forward to that. Molten Core, they have a new expanded boss in there as well. So they have some new screenshots there, but there's not a lot as far as information out there. As far as the changes, there's not a lot out there, which I really do appreciate that Project Epoch has kind of kept that under wraps. Uldum, located in southern Tanaris, is going to be introduced as a 25-man raid. So I'm not sure if this is something along the lines of, say, Blackwing Lair, or taking place after Naxxramas. So I'm really interested in kind of see where Uldum will be introduced as part of the raid system. Now, jumping over into PvP, they've completely overhauled PvP with no more ranks. So they did add a few new battlegrounds from what I was seeing. They have the Warsong Gulch, the Gilligem's Isle, and they have also, the other traditional ones. I'm really looking forward to Gilligem Isle. This is one that was introduced back in beta World of Warcraft on the west portion of Stranglethorn Vale. It'll be an interesting one to see. They have some new arenas as well, as we saw. They are going to be adding some conquest points. So as you enter the arenas and begin doing PvP back and forth, you'll be able to get these conquest points and be able to buy and purchase PvP gear. And then when you're doing PvP in the open world, you'll be able to level from, through the bloodshed, be able to take part in skirmishes and other events throughout the world. So there's a ton of changes. Having not yet logged into the game and got involved a whole lot, I'm just looking forward to a ton of these changes. Now, there are some other miscellaneous things that are introduced here, such as little carriages that are going to be in the level 5 to 20 zone. So you'll be able to pop onto a carriage and just kind of make your way from, say, Goldshire over to Westfall. You'll have the achievement system, which we talked a little bit about earlier. Transmog has been introduced into Project Epoch as well. Guild banks have been added in as well. So it'll be really nice to see guilds and be part of a guild and growing guild route mount scaling. So if your mount speed automatically scales with your highest unlocked readiness skill, giving you the freedom to choose mounts based on your style instead of just being locked behind a specific mount. So I do like this. The mount scaling is always really nice introduction. Dual specialization. This is locked behind 1,000 gold unlock fee. So if you are looking at a class out there that is not able to farm gold very easy, that is going to be a long time. But at the same time, if you're a class that doesn't require, dual spec, then it may not be an issue. But this is going to lock a lot of players behind being a specific class once again and farming as, say, a holy spec or spending a lot of money. I don't really like locking dual specialization behind a high gold fee, because when it does get into raiding, I don't mind something like 250, 350 gold, but 1,000 gold, that's the same level as a mount mount. And that, you have to make the decision. Do you want dual specialization or do you want that epic mount? You also, again, you can go into the barber shop, change your hairstyle, hair color, facial, so you're not locked behind what you've chosen at the beginning. And you can fight from anywhere in the open world. So you can queue for battlegrounds anywhere, join, and then come back to exactly where you at your convenience. So that is a really nice change right there, along with some other things, right? They're also using the Wrath of the Lich King client, which I know a lot of you guys already know that. So I think that's everything. Tried to cover it in a very quick fashion. Now, eventually, I do want to go over and cover some of the, so I think that's going to be it as far as we're going to go. So right now, Project Epoch is looking massive, but this is just the beginning. Which features are you most hyped about? Drop a comment down below. I'll be reading and responding to every single one. If you love survival challenges and world building updates like this, hit that like button below, subscribe if you're new, and consider joining our journey live over on YouTube and on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thanks for watching. Join my Discord to chat. May your loot be legendary and your respawns be few. See you all in the world. Bye-bye.